Hi guys, welcome back. You may recognize this intro. It's from the video we did when we fitted the manifold. So the questions we've been getting since fitting the manifold are A, how much power did we get from it? And B, is it worth it? So I'm going to go through today how much power we saw and is it worth it? So first of all, the power. Unfortunately, we can't give you a definitive, this is what it made, because we had the manifold mapped in and also the car in general remapped at 1320. And we've never been there before. What I can tell you is last year we visited 3 rolling roads, or 3 dynos, sorry, and we got 3 different results, which is what you'll always get. We saw at the wheels 162, 175, and 195. Now, they can't all be correct, and there was times when the car was maybe not running perfectly, we were still playing with the link, yada yada yada. So if we average those 3 figures out, we get 177 horsepower at the wheels. Okay, so let's go with that figure as a base figure. So I then fitted the manifold, as you saw in this video that's being played just now. Fitted the manifold, and then we went down to 1320. The only other difference between going to 1320 and the last time it was run on a rolling road is we had to swap out our old intercooler for an AirTech intercooler. Now, that should act much in such the same as the original intercooler. Intercoolers won't give you any more power. They're just there to try and keep the intake air temps down. So anyway, down to 1320, and the initial run we did on nothing, Thomas didn't touch anything, and we saw 190 horsepower at the wheels at that point. So we spent just over 2 hours on the dyno, and we eventually saw 204 horsepower at the wheels with 170 something foot-pounds of torque. So that's fine. That's what we needed to see in order to be eligible for the series and have a decent power to weight ratio and be competitive, basically. So figures wise, that saw us with an increase of 27 horsepower if you take our average from last year and what we ran on 1320's dyno. So 27 horsepower, that's a good number, that, isn't it? 27 horsepower at the wheels. I can't quite remember the torque figures from last year, but we're at 171 torque, 171 foot-pounds torque at the wheels, which, so both of these figures are actually slightly more than what TPE saw on their car, on their test car, when they first tried this manifold out for themselves. But they're around about the same. So that's a good thing. How much of the increase is the manifold? Again, I can't really say. The biggest thing is the air intake temps. Now, if we take some averages again, on a dyno run that we did last year, the average air intake temp on that dyno run was 52 degrees C. On a 1320 dyno run from this year, the average air intake temp 17 degrees C. Now that in itself was a big improvement, but it doesn't show what's going to happen in the real world. So we have the data from a race last year and a race this year. So if we take data from Mallory last year, which was quite a warm day, the average air intake temperatures we saw in race 1 were 68 degrees C. And then from this year, from Brands Hatch, the average from, I think this is from race 2 actually, the average we saw there is 41 degrees C. So the biggest tangible improvement we can see with this manifold is the air intake temperatures. I think something like at 50 or 55 degrees C. That might be different, but as standard, around that kind of numbers, the car starts pulling timing and pulling power. So if you're keeping your average below that, then obviously you're keeping your power, which is got to be one of the biggest things with these. So in terms of what we've seen in the data, for us, yes, this is a worthwhile improvement in the car, in the performance. So I would recommend, if you are racing an R53, which obviously we know quite a few people in our championship are, and other people up and down the UK, and all over the world are racing these things. If you are racing or just doing track days and want to basically keep as much power as you can during the length of your time on track, 100% get one of these manifolds. Yeah, initially they do seem a little bit pricey, but I would say it's worth it. Maybe the cost of, in terms of price per horsepower, if you were to buy one of these from Bad Boy Tuning at £940, and if you see also a 27 horsepower increase, that is £34 per horsepower. Is that worth it? Yeah, I'd probably say it is, to be honest. Many people out there buy, let's say, an AirTech induction kit. You buy an AirTech induction kit, you'll put it in your car, you'll maybe see, let's say, 5 horsepower at the peak. But the induction kits cost you 250 quid. That's £50 per horsepower. So when you put it like something like that, yeah, this manifold is actually worth it. It takes a wee bit longer to fit, as you can see this idiot in the video is struggling to do, but I would say personally it's worth it, especially if you are tracking or racing the vehicle, because ultimately it's keeping those temperatures down and keeping the engine healthier, because higher intake temps, obviously the ECU does compensate for that by pulling timing, but you're losing power. It's not very good for the engine. I think the record high we saw last year was like 89 degrees C or something, which is just ridiculous. I think this year the highest we've seen is maybe 60s. It's in the 60s. So, and the recovery rate as well seems to be a lot quicker. So yeah, I would say it's worth it. Obviously, they do recommend getting it mapped, but you're better off doing that anyway. Especially if you're fitting this in conjunction with bigger injectors, a camshaft, blah blah blah. So to sum up, is it worth it? In my opinion, yes. Like I say, we saw 27 horsepower in total. How much of that is manifold? How much of that is a map? I don't know, but you'll need to get a map anyway. It has cost us £34 per horsepower gained. Fitting this manifold, not including what it would have cost, like what it cost to get the car mapped. But if you're modifying these, you'll get it mapped anyway. So, in terms of what we saw cost wise, it's cost us £34 per horsepower gained for this season, which I don't think is bad at all. The main takeaway is the air intake temps. They are much lower, which obviously will help us keep more of that power for longer. And it ultimately helps keep the engine healthier, which should help, especially as the weather gets hotter. But yeah, hope this has been useful. You can buy these from Bad Boy Tuning. Link is in the description. And yeah, that's kind of it. We're not back out on track until June. It's a long time. We'll probably do a video next week of some bits and pieces I need to do with the car before then. And then, I don't know, videos might be sporadic or might see something else, I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Go and see Bad Boy Tuner if you want to buy one of these. And go and see 1320 Mini if you want to get it mapped in. And we'll see you next time.